Which players have risen the most in Dynasty value over the last month? We're talking about that in today's video. As always, guys, if you enjoy Dynasty content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button on this video. It's our Dynasty Risers video. We put these out every single month, keeping tabs on the market, who's rising, who's falling, when to buy low, when to sell high. We'll have a Dynasty Fallers video in the next video. Starting off with Justin Herbert, the quarterback position, moving up from 9 to 6. Now, it's only 3 spots, but when you're already in the top 10, like I always say, that's pretty significant. Justin Herbert's been playing awesome at kind of MVP type of numbers to start the year. He has 5 touchdowns on the year, 5 passing touchdowns on the year. He's averaging over about 270 passing yards per game, actually even more than that, 280 passing yards per game. And the big thing with Justin Herbert with the fantasy is that he's rushing the ball. He's rushed the ball for over 30 yards each of the last 2 games. And he's healthy as of now. And this was always in Justin Herbert's game. I know we don't think of him as a rusher. I always, as a Chargers fan, always kind of knew he could run the ball a little bit more. I mean, I saw him live in person rush for over 100 yards against the Steelers a couple years ago. So we knew this was in his game. Is it going to be continuously a part of his game? I hope so, but he has 16 rush attempts and 63 rushing yards over the first 2 weeks. So if he keeps that up, he's going to continue to be on this kind of pace that he's been on to start the year, which is great for Justin Herbert managers. They're also throwing the ball a lot more. They dropped back to throw the ball 41 times in week 1. And I believe they about 35 times in week 2, 33 maybe. I think all of his rush attempts came off of scrambles. So, yeah, it's good to see for Justin Herbert. It's good to see him move up into kind of this elite category of players. And let's hope he continues to do this because he's playing really, really well. Jordan Love has also moved up 3 spots. Again, he was already in the top 12, moving up 3 spots here. And he's kind of similar to what Justin Herbert's doing. Herbert's doing it a little bit better, but I think the narrative around Love was kind of like we were super excited for him after week 1, after year 1 of him starting. We kind of came back a little bit down on him after year 2 because he just wasn't that good last year for fantasy. He was fine, but he wasn't great. And now he's kind of getting back to, okay, are we back to Jordan Love being a low-end QB1 type of numbers, right? And hopefully we are. I would like to see him run the ball just a little bit more for fantasy purposes. He has, I believe, 16 rushing yards over the first 2 weeks of the season. So, nothing to write home about there, 8 yards a game. I'd love to see him get to like 15-ish yards a game. And I really think that could take him into, that QB 12 to 15 range to being potentially like a top, 10 guy, top 7 guy if he runs the ball even a little bit more. But I think the touchdowns are going to be there. This is a good offense. My only fear for Jordan Love is his weapons are getting hurt. Christian Watson got hurt. Jaden Reed got hurt. If he finds that connection with Matthew Golden, though, I think we could really see kind of the ascension of Jordan Love into the next level. Also, Tucker Kraft might be missing this game. Baker Mayfield just keeps it up. Baker Mayfield's been kind of playing out of his mind the last 2 years. I mean, his touchdown percentage last year was kind of insane. He threw for 41 touchdowns. I believe he rushed for like 5 more touchdowns, 3 more touchdowns in 2024. So he had 44 total touchdowns this year. He's kind of on that pace again. He has 5 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks, which is kind of insane. He's averaging 2.5 touchdowns a game, even though, the touchdown rate for him is a little bit bonkers. So he's on pace again for over 40 plus touchdowns. The passing yards aren't quite there. The rushing is there for him. He has also over 30 yards rushing per game his first 2 weeks. And I don't think that's necessarily a fluke. I mean, he did it last year, and I think that's just kind of a part of his game now. That's his development as a quarterback, and it's part of his game, and it's a weapon for the Buccaneers for him to run the ball like he has been over the last 2 years. I mean, he averaged 22 rushing yards per game last year. He's on averaging 36 this year. I think that number will come down a little bit. But the thing with Baker is like he has the weapons. He has a plethora of weapons. He has Emeka Ibuka, Mike Evans. Godwin will be coming back maybe week 4 or 5.
Cade Otton's a solid tight end. Bucky Irving, Rashad White out of the backfield. This guy has weapons. Jalen McMillan, whenever he comes back. Hopefully he comes back. So I kind of see it. I thought Baker Mayfield was a huge buy low during the offseason, as he, as most veterans do, they fall during the offseason. And man, there's just so much value you can take advantage of during the offseason on veteran players. I'm just kind of looking back at Baker, and he got all the way down during the offseason to like QB 20, 18 to 20 range for no reason, really. He just came off an incredible season last year. He finished the year as like a top 12 quarterback according to keeptradecut, and then he dipped to like 20 just because that's what veterans do. So always good to take advantage of these. Jake Browning has shot up a lot, and it obviously makes sense here. He's going to be playing for the next few months for the Bengals. And all I'll say about Browning is his when he took over as the starter in 2023, he played and started and played the entire game basically in 7 straight games to end the year in 2023, and he was pretty good. He was on pace for 4,500 yards and like 27 touchdowns. Now, he was also on pace for a lot of interceptions, and that's to be expected from a backup quarterback, right? All we really care about for Browning, obviously, if you have him on your team, be a QB 3 or 4 for my team, sure. But also, all we really care about is, propping up, keeping Jamar Chase and T. Higgins relevant for us, right? That's what we really, really care about more than anything here. So he was the QB 4 in points per game in fantasy, in total points in fantasy from weeks 12 to 18 last when he took over in 2023. He had 4 games over 20 points, another game with 19. So he was actually really good. And I expect with his weapons healthy, he kind of does the same. Into the running backs here, James Cook, obviously a part of this is him signing the contract, but also he's gotten off to a great start. We have 3 games under his belt. And yeah, he's playing well. He has, he's averaging 94 yards on the ground. He's averaging 3 receptions per game, which, by the way, that would be a career high. He's never had more than 2.6 receptions per game. On pace for, averaging 3 to start the season. Still young, still a young season, but he's getting touchdowns is the biggest thing. And I know it's hard. It's easy to call James Cook a touchdown regression candidate. I mean, the guy had 18 total touchdowns last year, and you don't really see back-to-back, 15 plus touchdown seasons very often. That being said, like if you're going to bank on a player having 15 plus touchdowns, bank on a guy who is on one of the best offenses in the league, who's going to be playing in a lot of potential shootouts and scoring a lot of points. And that's what we have at James Cook. He's deservedly so a top 10 guy. And he's going to continue to move up if he continues to play this way. As we have kind of, if he plays well this year, we have 3 good years of James Cook in a row. And he just got a new contract. So Travis Etienne is someone, it feels like we kind of slept on a little bit in redraft, in Dynasty. He went from being basically like a 2nd round pick in Dynasty, in redraft leagues in 2024 to like just kind of being completely forgotten about. And I think it was a little bit foolish. We were talking about on this channel, like, hey, I think Etienne's a pretty good value. You should probably go out and buy him. I mean, just kind of looking at Etienne, when he came off his 2023 season, like the guy was a top 10 running back. And then he plummeted. He plummeted from his 2024 season. And I understand that and why he did. Take Bigsby concerns. He wasn't playing well. But what did we get? We got a new coaching staff a coaching staff that came from Tampa Bay and made 2 relevant running backs in Bucky Irving, Rashad White. Good. It made them both fantasy relevant. Both were top 24 guys, which is really hard to do. And then he comes out week 1 and Etienne just kind of dominates the snaps. Now, people are going to talk about Bashal Tutin, which we'll be talking about him in a couple guys here. But the fact of the matter is, like, Etienne's played 60.6 and 66.2% of the snaps. He's averaging almost just under 65% of the snaps. This is his backfield. No one is still overtaking him in this backfield unless he gets hurt. He's playing well, first of all. He's averaging 7.1 yards per attempt on the ground. He's going to catch 2 or 3 passes. If you got Etienne, bought low on him, if you got him in redraft, whatever,
Like, this is the type of player that can kind of win you leagues. And this is why we always push. Why are we, going towards veterans, getting the value of veterans when they fall? Derrick Henry, before he went to the Ravens a couple years ago during the offseason, was like RB30. And then he had his huge season. Like, there's always value in these veteran running backs. Are you going to hit on them all the time? No. But a guy like ETN, still only 26 years old, saw a good season from him. I think it was kind of foolish that we didn't buy low more on ETN during the season. Lesson learned. Bill Krosky-Merritt, Jacory Krosky-Merritt is up next. Now, if you guys have been following this channel, you'll know that we were one of the first Dynasty channels to be talking about Jacory Krosky-Merritt. You can go back and look. Made a video in late March. This is before the NFL draft, talking about potential sleepers for your rookie draft, and Jacory Krosky-Merritt was on there. And so there's no bigger Jacory Krosky-Merritt fan, Bill Krosky-Merritt fan, than us and me on this channel. That being said, it kind of feels like Jacory Krosky-Merritt is going to become a sell pretty quickly. It feels like the right play, the right process. We talk about process trades a lot on this channel. Is the right process is to trade him. Now, I wouldn't necessarily trade him now because he could kind of take over this backfield a little bit. But after the next couple of games, the right process might be to trade high on him, because the history shows us, especially with these late round picks, that there's more often than not, they're going to get replaced, or they're just not quite going to live up to expectations. Antonio Gibson comes to mind. Antonio Gibson was like a top 12 running back after his first couple of years. Tyrone Tracy was right around this range before the offseason, and he's fallen off a little bit. James Robinson is another one that comes to mind. There are several guys really that come to mind when you start to look back at the last several drafts and you look at some of the running backs that were taken in day 3 or kind of late. And a lot of them kind of fall off a little bit. Zamir White, Dameon Pierce was like a top 12 guy, and they just get replaced very, very quickly. Now, for every Zamir White, for every Dameon Pierce, there is a Chase Brown, right, who kind of has returned that value a little bit. But I think the right process is to maybe sell high on Jacory Krosky-Merritt over the next couple of weeks. And again, it's a process trade. The process tells us we're going to be right 7 out of 10 times. We're going to be wrong 3 out of 10 times. Could this be a guy we're wrong on? Yes. I still would take my chances on selling on him. And we'll see. He may even fall a little bit because he doesn't quite get the usage that we're expecting to. Javonte Williams from 46 to 23, another guy that we were kind of telling you guys, hey, buy low on this guy. He's cheap enough that you can get him kind of as a throw-in. He could be the RB1 for the Cowboys, and lo and behold, he is the RB1 for the Cowboys. Now, is he going to keep up the pace, 20 points per game or whatever it's been in PPR? No. Is he going to score, a touchdown a game like he's on pace for, a touchdown a game like he's on pace for? No. His yards per attempt is fine, 4.6. It's not great. But it's his backfield. And I don't really see anyone kind of overtaking him. It's all about staying healthy for him. I think you kind of found gold with Javonte if you bought low on him. I think the right process is to trade him away, but it feels like maybe you should wait a little bit, right? You should possibly wait a little bit, see how he does over the next, because I still think people are a little bit hesitant. You see it a lot with these guys. Javonte Williams, Juwan Johnson's another one that we're going to talk about, where it takes a little bit more for us to really be convinced, because we have several years of, hey, this is what Javonte was. This is what Juwan Johnson was. I'm not going to just necessarily buy into it after 2 weeks, right? And so I think, potentially hold unless you can get kind of an overpay for him. That's kind of where I'm at with Javonte Williams. I think you're in a really good spot if you got him. Bayshaw Tootin from 38 to 28. A lot of people are excited about Bayshaw Tootin and how he looked. In his limited time there, and a lot of people are saying, oh, this is going to be the Bucky Irving to Rachaad White, and Rachaad White is ETN or whatever. And maybe I'm a little bit hesitant on Tootin. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to have to be very efficient with his touches. I think what we saw last week, where he played around, he gets about 25 to 30% of the snaps. He gives you
12 touches, 2 catches or 10 to 12 touches, 2 catches, 8 carries, and he's going to have to be extremely efficient with it. He's going to have to average over 5 yards a carry. He's going to have to average, 2-3 catches a game where he's averaging 8 to 10 yards per attempt. And then we're going to see a guy where it's like, oh, we're getting 70 total yards each week with a couple of catches and the occasional touchdown. That's kind of like a Keaton Mitchell, maybe like a Tony Pollard with Ezekiel Elliott a few years back. So I like Tootin. I think he's in a little bit of a good spot here. He's kind of ranked appropriately, in my opinion, but I don't think he's going to take over this backfield. And if there's someone out there that thinks he's going to, I would definitely be selling high on him. Jaylen Warren from 40 to 30. This is another guy where it's like, yeah, we kind of were saying buy low on this guy because, like, who's his competition? And then they got Caleb Johnson, and we were all a little bit worried. My whole logic with Jaylen Warren, especially when he was ranked even lower than this, he was, closer to the 50 than he was 40 at one point during the offseason. My whole logic for him was, I think at worst, you're kind of getting him at his floor. You're getting like an RB3/flex play. Even if Caleb Johnson is a major player, we saw that with Jaylen Warren last year, last couple of years with Najee. Like, Najee was the workhorse guy getting most of the touches. Jaylen Warren was still like a top 36, top 40 running back. So I kind of saw it as like, hey, you're buying him at his floor. At worst, he's just a bench piece that you can play during bye weeks. And I think you have that, and that's what you're buying him for. And then there's the upside of like, well, what if he's more? What if they kind of move forward with him as their main guy? And that's kind of what they're showing to start the year. He's not quite getting he played 58.1% of the snaps in week 2, 44.6 in week 1. If he's closer to that 60% mark and the guy's getting 15 plus touches, he's going to be really good for fantasy. My only concern is that both Gainwell and Jaylen Warren have not been good, efficient at running the ball. And I do think the Steelers are going to want someone that can run the ball a little bit better between the tackles if they keep up like this, averaging 3.4 yards per attempt. And maybe they get Caleb Johnson a little bit more involved. Possible. Into the wide receivers here, we have Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he is rising up the board. I honestly didn't think JSN was going to be able to get higher than where he was, right around 11, wide receiver 11 and 12. I kind of thought he was going to float around that range this year. But I mean, the guy is like, he's just being hyper targeted by Sam Darnold, and that's what we love to see. 23 targets through the first 2 weeks for Jackson Smith-Njigba, which is insane. That's almost a 200 target pace. He's caught 17 of those 23 targets, over 100 yards each of the first 2 weeks. Like, the guy is on fire. Doesn't have a touchdown yet. I always like to see where do these guys rank? In total points per game. Jackson Smith-Njigba in 2025 in PPR is the wide receiver 11 without a touchdown. That's really, really good because that he's going to get some touchdowns. How many is he going to get? I don't know. He'll get a handful. He'll get 5 to 7 at least. But the guy's on pace to catch a ridiculous amount of passes. I think he's leading the NFL in yards per route run. This is his wide receiver room. Cooper Kupp is there, and Cooper Kupp did have a good game in week 2. But this is Jackson Smith-Njigba, and this is the type of player he is. He is a high volume type of guy. So I was kind of wrong. I was always high on JSN. I just didn't think he could get much higher than maybe he was. I was wrong about that. He's getting into elite territory as of right now. Emeka Egbuka is another player that's kind of creeping in. He's like replacing Jackson Smith-Njigba. I know he does have an injury heading into week 3. Obviously, we're talking Dynasty a little bit, so we're not super worried about like a 1-week injury. But he didn't practice the first 2 practices. We'll see. Today is Friday that we're recording this, so we'll see if he practices. It's been great to see Emeka Egbuka. He's kind of played like what Jalen McMillan did last year, where he was kind of very touchdown heavy, right? Like Jalen McMillan last year was catching 4 or 5 passes, but scoring multiple touchdowns, 1 to 2 touchdowns a game to kind of end the year. And that's, as of right now, what we've seen from Emeka Egbuka. But it's great to see it in his first 2 games as a rookie. He has 3 touchdowns, 8 catches, almost 100 yards. So You love to see it. You love to see it. About 2 catches, about averaging 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown and a half per game is great as a rookie. My only concern is like when Godwin comes back, do we see a little bit less of a big production from Emeka Ibuka? That being said, he's properly ranked. The dude's a stud. He is going to be the best wide receiver on the Buccaneers probably as soon as next year. Zay Flowers, another guy that I was kind of wrong about. I was kind of out on Zay Flowers, and drafting him where he was going both in redraft and in Dynasty. And, he's kind of proven me wrong a little bit. He's becoming a little bit of that target hog. My whole argument was never against Zay Flowers. It was always against the Baltimore Ravens and their offense and them just never supporting a top tier wide receiver. Starting off the year, as of right now, we have one. I mean, the guy's averaging 7 catches a game and 109 yards per game, and he has a touchdown. He has 3 rush attempts as well. Don't underrate the rush attempts. Usually, wide receivers average around 10 or higher yards per attempt when running the ball. Now, Zay Flowers has only averaged 4 to start the year, but if you get closer to that 10 and you're getting 1 or 2 a game, you're adding on 10 to 20 yards per game. Which is not nothing, right? And so Zay Flowers has kind of proven me wrong here, and I think it's a good reminder that sometimes we just need to bet on talent, and I know we put so much stock and value into situation. What situation are they in, right? Oh, he's on the Ravens. Lamar Jackson threw 40 plus touchdowns, and Zay Flowers wasn't even like a wide receiver 3 or barely a wide receiver 3 last year. And that's all fair, and that's fair to look at things that way. But sometimes talent wins out. We're seeing a lot less usage of Mark Andrews, which is leading to the Zay Flowers kind of breakout season. So it's good to see here. Last wide receiver timeout is Keon Coleman. From 43 to 30. I'll be curious to see, we're recording this the day after the Thursday night game. I am curious to see if he falls a little bit back down. He obviously came out and had a huge week 1, 8 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Touchdown was a little bit fluky, but it doesn't matter. Fantasy points are fantasy points. And then he followed that up with back-to-back performances of 3 catches, 20 yards, and 26 yards. My worry about Keon Coleman is I was never the biggest Keon Coleman fan, first of all. I don't think he's a big hyper-target volume type of player, and he's going to rely on kind of these big plays or touchdowns to really be fantasy relevant. And my worry is if the Bills aren't in like a shootout type of situation like they were week 1 against the Ravens, if they're not in a shootout, I don't really feel comfortable starting Keon Coleman in most leagues unless it's a deeper league. And so I think I would kind of sell high on Coleman. Like I even think him being right around this, top 30 guy is high. I would have him a little bit lower, and I would sell high on him. And just think, this Bills offense is going to spread the ball around. Keon Coleman is not a volume type of guy. He's an outside type of player, win contested catches type of player. And he's going to have these down games. So I would think I would sell high on him. Speaking of another guy I would sell high on is Harold Fannin Jr. from 23 to tight end 8 after the first 2 weeks of the season. Now, if you've watched this channel, you'll know that if you don't play in a tight end premium, I am always selling tight ends, even the top tier guys. If you don't play in a tight end premium, I'm trying to sell tight ends as much as possible because they don't really make that much of a difference. Now, Harold Fannin Jr. had the cult following, right? In the offseason, he had that cult following. And it's translated to him just shooting up the boards of value, and deservedly so. I mean, the guy, he was a 3rd round pick. He did just dominate in college at Bowling Green, and he comes out and he gives you, he's giving you basically 5 for 50 is what he's giving you to start the season with David Njoku there. I will say his usage is not worried. I'm not worried about it, but his usage does point to, are we going to be able to rely on this? That's all I'm saying. He played 63% of the snaps, and generally for tight ends, if you're not playing 70 or 80% or more, you're a little bit hard to rely on. He's playing. He's not really playing on early downs as much. That's still Njoku. He's playing more on 3rd downs than anything. And my other worry is when Flacco inevitably gets benched because the Browns are going to continue to probably lose. I mean, They play the Packers this week, so they're going to be 0-3. They play the Lions after that, the Vikings. Like they could easily lose these next 3 games and just start off the season 0-5. And it's kind of like, well, what are you doing? Are you just going to go 0-16 with Joe Flacco in 2025? Maybe to get a number 1 pick, or do you want to see what you have in Dylan Gabriel? That could affect the passing numbers for all the Browns players. And so that is a little bit of a caveat here. Again, I'm going to sell high on tight ends a lot just because unless you play in a heavy tight end premium league, they don't generally matter. But I understand if you don't want to. Juwan Johnson from 41 to 24. Either that or I'm going to down tier from Fanning. And I might down tier to a guy like Juwan Johnson because I do think Juwan Johnson is legit. And one of the reasons I think he's legit this year, not saying he's going to be better than Fannin the rest of their careers or whatever, but why I think he's legit this year is that he's literally playing like every snap. 97.3% of the snaps is what he's played. He's played 97.3% of the Browns' offensive snaps this year, which is why you're seeing this incredibly high floor and ceiling as well. 8 for 76 is a ceiling for a tight end. 5 for 50 and a touchdown is a ceiling for a tight end. 20 targets for the first 2 weeks. Spencer Rattler seems to like him, and they're throwing the ball. New Orleans is throwing the ball quite a lot. I actually don't think Spencer Rattler's playing terribly. They've been in both these games, so I don't know if they're going to really make a change at the quarterback position anytime soon. Again, I don't think Rattler's playing that badly. I don't think he's playing great, but so I think Juwan Johnson is going to continue to feast. The only question mark is when Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill come off the pup, do we see a little bit more of a tight end rotation? Because they're really just using Juwan Johnson because there's just no one else. It's like, a 7th round rookie and then someone else there. So I would be looking to tear down to Juwan Johnson. Zach Ertz is also rising. He's just continues to hang around. I mean, the guy's 35. He'll be 35 this year. He's 34 years old, continues to hang around. He gave you 6 for 64 and a touchdown, 2 touchdowns in 2 games, 9 catches. So just another example of like, man, there's just so much value at tight end that like I'm always looking to tear down because these guys, there's just a lot of value that comes out. Yeah. So that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and be on the lookout for the Dynasty Followers video. Catch you guys all in the next video.